Hey guys, what is up? So there was a little bit of a leak in terms of some of the updated card abilities that are going to be like tweaks, nerfs, buffs to some of the cards that is going to go through on patch 0.9.4, which is going to be the patch that goes live Tuesday. This is not necessarily a comprehensive list of changes, but I thought I'd basically talk about them a little bit since it's, in the public domain at this point. And effectively, there's probably going to be some other changes that we haven't seen. I'm not going to slow roll you guys, so I'll just show you all of them first, and then I'll talk about each one individually. So the first change is Calista is going back to seeing 3 allies die for her level up. The second change is that Katarina on play gets a fleeting Blade's Edge for your hand when you play her. I'll mention that it does look, we can't really see in this picture the text of the leveled up side, but based on what you can see, it does look like she doesn't maintain that ability when she's leveled up. So this is a one-time thing, it looks like. Frenzied Skitterer gets nerfed to 2 health, and Vanguard Bannerman no longer buffs himself as well. And lastly, Yasuo is getting a +1 health buff, so he's a 4/4/4 quick attack now. Okay, so now basically to talk about some of the implications of these changes. What do I think about these changes? Will these cards still be good, or will they, maybe what's going to be good and what stays the same? So overall, I think Calista is still going to be a little bit awkward to run, but she will see some experimentations. She's a bit more of a considerable slot in like the fearsome style decks. I think this is definitely enough of a buff to push her to see playability and experimentation. And I might actually bring her into like a fearsome lineup that I'm actually thinking about bringing into the Jamfest tournament tomorrow. Katarina's buff is pretty big, I will say. It's a really big deal getting like a free fleeting Blade's Edge, especially that it allows you to attack in against 4 health units. Think about it sort of like Draven. When you play Draven on turn 3, they can never really block him, because even if they have a 4 health unit early, there's always the threat of, him using the spinning axe on himself, and then they would lose their entire unit because you have quick attack. So the Blade's Edge is going to be something pretty similar. It allows her to attack on a lot of board states where she otherwise couldn't, and in addition to that, you have the flexibility of even just using it to clean up a unit, right? This is a really, really huge buff. I personally have never had a huge opinion of Katarina. She's always been floating around the level of playability. This is pretty gigantic. Suddenly, this card has a lot more flexibility. You're getting a free Blade's Edge. You can run her in a lot of positions otherwise. As well as, I'll point out that with some of the leaks coming out before, like for example, Sejuani. So for those of you guys who might not have seen, the new champion that got announced for Freljord is Sejuani. This is going to be in the next expansion, which is going to be at the end of the month. And because she wants you to damage the enemy nexus in 5 different rounds in this game, there's a bit of synergy there, because the fleeting Blade's Edge does have the ability to hit your opponent's nexus, which is quite nice. Now, I don't know how relevant that's going to be, because it is fleeting for only the turn you play it, and typically you're going to want to play Katarina on attacking turns for the first time, but there definitely is a bit of tie-in. You could do like a 3 Ashe, 1 Katarina, 2 Sejuani deck to pretty great success. Okay, Frenzied Skitterer. This is a fairly big nerf. The 1 health will definitely be felt on this card, and I think this becomes a card that will definitely see some experimental cuts. This is still a powerful card. Its deployability is still perfectly powerful, and it'll still see a lot of play on spiders, right? It's just like a bit more cuttable now. And then there's Bannerman. Bannerman obviously only grants other allies +1/+1, not itself. So what that's going to mean is when you play it, even if the allegiance procs, it's a 3/3 instead of a 4/4. I expect this nerf to be noticed, but not significant. What I would say is Bannerman decks will remain unchanged. They'll still be built in all the same ways. It's still a power card, but one thing I do expect is once the expansion hits and there's a lot more options for being able to run different units in the slot, there might be reasons to be in different colors other than mono Demacia. I expect we'll see a lot of Demacia decks actually start to drop Bannerman and play for other strategies at that point. That being said, Bannerman is still a powerful card, so even at that point, it will have a bit more competition in terms of if you want to play Demacia, what are you going to pick? There's still going to be a lot of people that will play Bannerman. Overall, this card is kind of like Skitterer, where you'll feel the nerf, but it is still a powerful card. And then lastly, we've got Yasuo. This is a 4-mana 4/4 now. Hey, that's a pretty big deal. It makes him a lot less dependent on leveling up. I have to say I'm not necessarily a giant fan of this change. I feel like I would have liked to have seen Yasuo have kind of like a bit more of a synergy-based tweak rather than just like, you know, increasing his stat line. It makes him definitely something you can run. I mean, a 4/4/4 quick attack, if you're playing a deck that doesn't really need the champ slot, is just kind of an alright thing, right? Like there's nothing really wrong with a 4/4/4 quick attack. But he's still gonna have a hard time leveling up. In a lot of the stun recall decks, the best way to play those decks is like a very, very, very aggressive playstyle. So in that kind of deck, it's still possible, where you're running like Fey Blade Twirler and Deafening Roar, it's still possible that you might not want to include Yasuo in that deck, because a lot of those decks have cut Yasuo in the past because he's much more of a control playstyle stun or recall synergy card, whereas most of the best stun recall cards are in the aggro playstyle, like Fey Blade Twirler and Deafening Roar and that kind of thing. So I'm still not 100% sure that you'd want to run Yasuo in that style of deck, but he does become a little bit better. Ultimately, I think unlike Calista, I would still put Yasuo as not a great card yet. Calista is not amazing in her new form, but she is pushed into the level of viability. I would say Yasuo got very minorly buffed. Calista is kind of in the middle child where she ends up being all right now. She's definitely a playable card, and Katarina's buff is pretty massive to the point where she's probably the best off out of the three. I'm liking the idea of running like new Katarina in quite a few decks because this is a major upgrade. All right, that's it. I just want to give basically some first impressions on the patch. It's not too much of a leak since this is all going to be... We're going to have the full set of changes that are going to be happening on Tuesday, on Monday. That's going to be in like 2 days from now. So, I mean, there's probably going to be some more changes coming in then. It'll be very interesting to see exactly how they're going to shift things, especially since we're in reveal season right now, so there's going to be a lot of new cards at the same time as we're getting these changes. So I have to think about the changes both in terms of the current meta and the meta that we predict is going to be the case when the expansion hits at the end of the month. All right, guys, that's it. That's all I got. Peace.